Edit your material.
No, I don't, because
Ay, ay, ay.
no. So I don't like to edit this stuff because then it takes away from the authenticity of the experience. And part of the problem, I think, with media, and I'm not the first person to say this, is that a journalist will sit with you for an hour and then they will cut some things from you, and most of the times it's okay, but then sometimes it can be taken out of context, and then you turn out to be someone that you're not. And you can actually see this because in the world, most people that we know of as public figures, they're not even human. They're like a fragment of a human. They're all bad, they're all good. And we quickly forget, because the image of them that's presented to us is, a cutout, right? It's like there's this giant history of a person, but we only get to see a slim view of that person, and we don't see their at their weakest moments or at their best moments or whatever. So
how do you become so open-minded person? So the podcast is about you, I think. I'm really curious about you.
You know what? You're the first person to. You might be the first person to actually ask me anything about me on the podcast. So that's interesting.
So now it's your. You have now.
You're going to interview me.
Yeah.
So I would say that I am open-minded by temperament. Like I like people. I like to hear them out. I always try to learn from people. I think that life is this never-ending quest for. It's something that I stumbled upon recently. Is I don't want to be smart. I want to be wise. Because I look at a lot of smart people and I think you're miserable, and I look at a lot of so-called dumb people and they look actually rather happy, and I'd much rather have that life of meaning and purpose, and valuing the right things, essentially. I mean, I think shouldn't we all want that, right? And it seems like the people that popular culture looks down upon, the so-called simple folk, like for example in America, these are the Trump voters. They seem to know what really matters, what makes for a good life, and it's the same thing for everyone, right? It's family, it's community, it's doing things, helping other people, doing meaningful work. Like it's not rocket science, and it's not about how much money you have, although that helps, but not about how much money you have, and it's not about what the clothes you wear, and it's not about the car you drive or any of that kind of stuff. So I like to talk to all sorts of people.
So you're supposed to be very a spiritual person. It is.
Ever since I had kids, ever since I knew I was going to become a dad, I've become someone else.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you also was educated as a moderate person. I mean, in a house that.
Okay, so I grew up in a traditional Jewish household, which meant that we sat together at the table for Friday night. My mother lit candles, so a lot of times we had guests. My father took me to synagogue every Friday. But we weren't especially religious. Like we weren't fanatical in our observance or anything like that. I think you'll find a lot of Jews in America are this way. And I remember, and my parents sent my two sisters and I to a Jewish school in Miami, in Florida, and they would, we would spend half a day learning secular subjects, math, history, English, things like this, and then the other half learning about Judaism. So we would learn about the Chumash and the Torah and Talmud and all this stuff. And, you're a young kid, you're very impressionable. And I would come home and say, or would repeat the things that they taught me. Something about, I remember one day, specifically, that I came home and I told my parents something about Gan Eden, right? Heaven. And my father said to me, he asked me a very good question, a very simple question. And he said, well, how do you know? How do you know what they're saying to you is true? And of course, because obviously I didn't have a good answer, I just left me cold. And when I look back on the few years that I've been alive, I look at that moment as a very crucial moment in my development, which is my parents gave my sisters and I a structure to understand the world, but he also imparted in us this sense of doubt. Which it can be destructive, but it's also very useful because it keeps you. So
I got the answer.
It can keep you sane. I don't. Part of the reason why I sometimes have trouble with very religious people is I don't understand a person who can be so sure of their beliefs or their way of life. I don't trust it. How I would ask the same question to them that my father asked me. So how do you know, right?
There is a famous phrase that God spoke as for Abraham.
Yeah.
For everyone, but just Avram add the word Lech Lecha.
Okay.
So I can assume your parents or many parents say the same things for their kids, but your parents was lucky enough that you got the point, the idea of that, and questioning. And I think it's something very special in you.
Oh.
This is very, very special.
Okay.
Yeah, because usually also as kids we don't want to listen too much to our parents because we understand much more than our parents. Depends which age.
And so that's also another. It's an interesting thing because also in my own development that growing up, as I think young boys do, I very much looked up to my father, and then as I got older in my teenage years, you rebel, and I started to tear apart the image of my father as this good man in my own mind. I said, well, he has this weakness and he has that weakness and he did this wrong and he did that wrong. and then of course, as I think happens to most men who become fathers, is that I realized the awesome things that he did for me, right? And both my parents, but obviously as a father myself, I end up thinking a lot about how I am as a father, how he was, and then understanding what he did to me when I was a kid, and the things he said to me, and realizing the responsibility that a father has, especially to all kids, but also sons. I have 3 sons, so I think about it a lot.
What ages?
7, 5, and 2.
My oldest is 25.
The oldest?
Yeah.
How many kids do you have?
5. And my youngest is 15.
15. And boys, girls?
We have 3 boys and 2 girls.
3 boys and 2 girls.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Are any of them married?
He was married, yeah. My oldest.
Is he the only one who's married?
He was married, but he divorced.
Okay.
So meanwhile, we are just waiting for new Bezrat Hashem.
So, but yeah, as I and I think this explains a lot of my worldview lately. But as I grew up and as I began to understand and appreciate the things that my parents did and my father did, I started to rebuild that image of and the appreciation I had for my father, and I have today, which in a religious context is very relevant to Judaism, right? Because there is this image of God the Father.
Yeah,
I know it's Christian as well, but
it's absolutely.
Shema
b'ni Torat imecha. I mean, it's the very, very important to listen to the father's voice. Yes, but it's the same with the mothers as well.
Yeah, how so?
Ki the Torah. I will explain. I will speak about later on. Just continue your.
Okay. What else do you want to know?
So the fact that you came to Israel the last 13 years, that means that you decided to raise your family in Israel.
Man, you asked the great questions. I don't know. Every year, my wife and I. So just briefly, I moved to Israel 13 years ago. I was single, And I had very much plans to remain single for as long as I could, because I had girlfriends up until that time, and that's just the kind of guy I was. I was always with a girlfriend, and I said, okay, now I'm going to be single. And of course, I meet this incredible star in my Hebrew class, and obviously we start dating and we get married and we have kids. But she's not from Israel either. We're both from outside of the country, so it's a bit difficult since we don't have any support from either side. But raising kids here, it comes with a lot of very profound questions, right? It is
now there's so many Israelis who wants to move, to immigrate to different countries.
Exactly.
Because what happened in Israel, and you decided to stay here. This is a interesting.
Yeah. Well, I must say that it does irritate me when Israelis ask. The natural question that Israelis ask is, well, why did you move here? Like, oh my God, you had it so good in America. And what irritates me about that particular question is that they take for granted this place, and this is a spectacular, in fact, place. And I don't think that people should take it so lightly that this place exists. I mean, 2,000 years, there was no one in the world understood what you meant by Israel. Like, it wasn't a concept. And then this journalist in Austria has a vision, and it's a nightmare vision, and he says, okay, the end of European Jewry is coming, and we need to do something about it. And he comes up with a crazy plan.
Wow.
A crazy plan. Like, just out of this world, bonkers. Let's move all the Jews from around the world to the same place that we've all been talking. I mean, why he thought any of this would work out. Why he thought that you could collect a bunch of strangers and bring them all home. To think of the chutzpah of this guy, the balls, right? It's
exactly.
But he hit on something that was so true, right? Which was this yearning to be together in the place where our history started. And it worked. Like it's such a successful country. So yeah, to lose sight of that is painful, I think.
Wow.
For me.
Yeah. Wow.
But where are you from? Are you born here?
So I want to say that the phrase is Shema b'nei musar avicha va'al titosh Torah imecha. So the morality comes from the father. That's the point. So this is about our relationship with our parents, the tradition, the heritage. I mean, father presents something very moral.
Sure.
So that is.
But I don't want to sell my mother short. I mean, she instills quite a lot of things in me.
Don't neglect the mother's Torah. I mean, Torah Shtemecha.
Sure.
So regarding your question, I grew up. I always saying that I immigrated to Israel in the age of 20 because I grew up in a very isolated community in Mea Shearim.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and I always say I have great memories.
But say just for anyone who's listening or watching, what
Mea Shearim
is
a very extreme community.
Extreme
community in Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a young, that's mean it was really, really isolated from outside Yerushalayim. I mean, I almost in those ages never meet people who speak even Hebrew. So I didn't speak even Hebrew, and for sure not English, right?
Wow.
So yeah, it was very extreme community, but at the same time, I have great memories. I feel I'm blessed.
Wait, and
I'm blessed. I'll tell you why I'm blessed.
Yeah.
Because, everybody. It's about the narrative. If you say you are is based on your narrative, the story you tell for yourself, and I feel blessed because I met and my eyes saw and met great people they was really God-fearing people, loving Torah people, dedicate people, and they didn't want nothing material in their life.
Mm.
I don't know if it still exists, but those kinds of people I saw, I met, and I think it gives me something. It will inspire me. It's not exactly what I'm, adapt for myself, but it's something that I knew, and I think this is less and less happens in our community, that people choose a frugal lifestyle.
Mm.
They choose to live very simple and dedicate to give all the time for studying and serving God. It's something very unique and very special. And people with great midot. I mean, midot, great nature traits. And people think all the time about giving, about chesed, about making good for other people.
Chesed, these are kind actions, right?
Yeah, kind actions. So that's why I'm saying I'm blessed, but I'm also blessed that I met another Israel.
Wait, so you spent the first 20 years of your life in this community, and it's a very closed community?
It's like Amish, Amish?
Yeah, of course.
It's very similar.
Wow.
In some ways, yeah.
So, and you didn't even speak Hebrew, let alone English. And did you, because I remember one of my first memories, first time I came to Israel, I was 13, it was after my bar mitzvah, and I think we passed by through Menachems or something like that, and we were told even then, so this was 1998, and we were told even then that if you drive your car on Shabbat, that you're likely to have stones thrown in your car and things like this. So did you have these kinds of ideas also in your mind?
It's interesting because my mother, she told me when I was 7 years old, and it was a demonstration Shabbat, because Shiftei Israel, it's the Rehov, it's the street next to Menachems.
Okay.
And in those days, the people drove the cars next to Menachems in Shabbat.
Okay.
So I know the kids was throwing stones on the. So the police, they came inside the community, and it was very dramatic. So when I was 7 years old, I asked my mother, who they are, the police? They are Jewish? And she said something. I don't want to say what she said.
Oh, no.
But I realized if they're Jewish, I said to my mother, so why we are fighting with our brothers? So I feel that I'm blessed also by the fact that since I remember myself, I love people. I love different people. I try not to be judgmental, and I try to see the best in everyone, every human being.
I agree.
So it's about of my nature. It's not so, it's not an accident that happened that I changed all. One day my mind, my attitude, just open-minded person.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
You can live in a jail, but be open-minded with with freedom.
In fact, yeah. I mean, sometimes when you live in a prison, it can actually.
Maybe it's the only way.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So even as a kid, you realized that life outside of the borders of your community wasn't as bad as perhaps your parents were telling you, or your community was telling you. Wow. Were there other people like you?
And you know what? For 7 or 8 years ago, one of my friends asked me to come to make him a tour in Menachems.
Okay.
I was very excited because I know the place very well. Every corner, every person. I remember the smell from different stores, And it was quite a nice tour, but all of a sudden one of the boys recognized my face and he started screaming. And, it was not a good moment. 150 young boys came and they almost made me a lynch. And since then, I'm not entering Menachems because, it's they don't want that I should go there. But for 2 days ago, because I also graduated from Yeshivat Mir. Mir is next to Menachems.
Okay.
Very famous. It's like Harvard from the show, very special.
Okay.
Very, very special.
Are you trying to tell me you're smart?
I studied 1.5 years when I graduated. So every year I'm going back for 2 days. and just to feeling back the feeling of studying Torah all day long. It's something very unique. Something that I can do it all, in all my life.
Yeah.
So I said to I'm just coming back with my brother, and I said to my brother, let's go back to Menachems, because the last time it was for 8 years ago. So I just put eyeglasses and very funny hat, and no one recognized, and I felt like I was so excited just to go back and to make the tour.
Did you talk to people that were?
I didn't talk.
Okay.
I didn't want, but I was blessed. No one recognized my face, and it's something that you grew up. You don't want, always it comes with memories and feelings. Something very powerful.
But do you have, of course? But do you have family? Do you have friends that live there?
Yeah, I visit one of my uncle. He lives there, so I visited him. He was shocked to see me. I didn't call him before.
So, but you are known inside the place where you grew up as someone that should be lynched? I mean, that's
I didn't know. I assumed that I didn't know that people knows me. But unfortunately, so it was very, very uncomfortable even moment.
Wow.
But I was saved, and the police, they told me, Menachem, we know you cannot go enter Menachems, so please be careful.
That's just...
Yeah, it was not... Yeah, but again, I will tell you, I have any anger on those people. You know why?
Tell me.
I have only compassion, because this is exactly the results of getting out up in the morning and feeling something is missing in your life. I mean, the emptiness. People... Menachems, I can't say everyone, right? But the young generation, it's not based on ideological issues. It's very much about, against. You get up in the morning, you're fighting, you don't want about what? It's a part of the culture.
Oh, really?
Just fight. Yeah, it's a compassion. You see young kids, and you see they have no future. And
oh, wow.
Very emptiness, in their life. That's the results. When you believe in one truth in your life, and you all in ongoing feeling of emptiness.
Yeah.
I think this is what creates violence in some ways.
So take me into that world, because I just sorry. Take me into.
Do you understand my English?
I do. You're doing great.
Please.
In Menachems, because I know that the Haredi community is very broad. It's not just that one part of Jerusalem. So. But take me in there precisely. Like, what is life there like? What are people taught? What do they believe?
So it's very interesting, because it's always about circumstances, right?
Okay.
Before Israel was based as a country, it was already a community. It came and for many generations, and they suffered from very. It was poor, very poverty. The poverty was very, very. Even after the country was built, and it was a surviving, I can say in some ways, a surviving attitude. I mean, you survive. You don't have food on the table. You cannot feed your kids, so you get indifference about many, many things. It becomes a part of the culture. Even now, when I live in Beitar Alit, I can see grandkids from those families. They have similar. Treats. I mean, attitudes. It's not. The indifference. Okay, it'll be okay. You have 10 kids. Yeah, God will help you. Everything will be okay. Like, it's not a Jewish way of life in my eyes. Again, I want to be very careful. And this is one thing. The second thing is they have a deep sense of feeling that they are the real Orthodox Jews in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Without them, maybe the whole world will be destroyed, because they feel
the whole world.
Yeah, because as a Jewish people, we believe studying Torah this is what the world, the keeps for the world physically. That is a very famous belief.
Okay.
I also believe that studying Torah is something that keeps the world. In spiritual ways, I really believe, but at the same time, you have to be, you have to take responsibility and also physically protect the world. And those people who live there, they feel they're fighting about Jewishness, about everything, and about modest, and about they feel the mission, the mission until Masech is going to come. They're going to keep the Jewish light, something like that. That's it. So that's why they're against everything that is present the modern world, the Western world, those values, what's going outside the world and outside Me'asharim is a threat for them. And it's a real threat. Because for many years ago, when people live inside those high walls, it really protects them from the outside world. You have no access. But now you can live in Me'asharim, and via the internet you have access to all over the world. So it's a new way, it's a new challenge for the community. 5 years ago, something like that, I delivered a speech for young leaders in the foreign ministry from the United States, and I explained with a pathos what does mean Me'asharim. And I speak very highly about the walls and to be isolated and why it's important to be isolated. And one of the people who attend the lecture, he said, do you mean Me'asharim over here? And I said, yeah, it's one Me'asharim. I don't know if there is two Me'asharim. He said, it's really interesting because I have an application that people who belong to the LGBT community, they can open the application in every area and find members.
Yeah.
And I heard that Me'asharim is an isolated place, so I was wondering if I can find some spots in Me'asharim.
Yeah.
And I found 32.
32 members
spots,
of this app.
members.
Yeah.
So I asked her, so please let me know how many people you was in your group. But she said, no, you can, and this is a new challenge for the community. So you cannot, this is my claim, that when I'm speaking, maybe in the whole world, in an ancient world, you can preserve yourself from outside the community, but now it's a new world. You have to find new practice to deal with the new world.
Wow. So for all this time, they were erecting walls against the rest of the world because they thought everything else was just a corruption of their way of life.
Listen, you are a Western person, right?
Sure.
And I'm too in some ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
The world is struggling with so many issues, and it's damaging the new generation. The internet, the media, values, and I think tradition is not a problem. It's the solution. In my eyes, it's a solution. It's not a problem.
Well, you have to marry both.
No, but it depends. If you go to the edges, to the extremism, this is not. It's not a part of the Judaism I'm looking for. I don't believe in those kinds of, because in our Torah they said, "Drachea darkei noam." So the past needs to be with pleasant. It was naim.
Yeah.
And the fact, if you reject others and judgmental for others, so which kind of Jew you are? So I'm always away from those edges. I don't believe in edges. But as idea, I think to create your identity in those days, it's a huge challenge even for Orthodox people.
Wow. Okay. So you were 20. What triggered you to leave Me'asharim?
I since I remember myself, I was blessed that I knew I want to be educator.
Okay.
And one day came to me a friend and he said, listen, there's a rabbi in North Israel who's looking for a counselor for Russian immigrants.
Okay.
So I said, yes, I'm coming. I was married already.
Okay.
I got married at the age of 19. I'm blessed also. A lot of brachot. So, and when I started working, I realized that I don't know nothing. I don't know about education. I made some mistakes. I don't know English. I don't know math. And
did you know
it was
Hebrew?
very embarrassing. I have very bad Hebrew.
Wow.
It's like You felt handicap once in your life? I felt handicap.
Wow.
I felt terrible. It's
Terrible.
Terrible. It's painful. It's really painful. In the age of 20, you met yourself and you cannot communicate with people. You don't know nothing about the life, about the outside world.
Right.
It's painful. It's very destructive.
Did your family support you when you left?
It's not, I didn't left. I didn't change my clothes. I mean, I just, I create something new in my head.
No, but
physically, there is no signs that because I'm still Haredi.
Yeah.
I love my community. I
Yeah.
find great things inside. I have a lot of criticism to my community. I believe if we're not going to change, it's going to be terrible for them and for Israel.
Yeah.
I love Israel as well, so I think very much a part of what I'm doing now in Israel is because I love Israel, and I think how we can integrate the Haredi community in Israel. This is one of my greatest missions. So when I felt that I don't know nothing in my life, so I start learning from noon, ABC.
Wow.
And it was very, very painful.
But again, you're married. Did your family, your parents, your brother, did they try to keep you in the community? Did they object you leaving to go work outside the community?
I think I was very independent.
Okay.
And those days I make decisions that it was not with my parents. And I'm very happy. I'm very proud about that.
Sure.
Because I took from my, Haredi, it's very interesting. But Haredi, there is a value that says, "Ma yagidu," what people are going to say.
Yeah.
It's very, very strong value. It's about of belonging to the community. It's about of the nature of being Haredi. So I'm very happy that I have the courage inside not to put attention to those issues, to those values.
Okay.
Ma yagidu. So David said, people really don't think about you. It's just crazy things. In our community, it's free, right? It's something crazy. It's tough, it's terrible. So there's the words that's if someone speaks behind you, that's mean you forward him. And someone speaks behind your back, so you're forward. You're forward.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, no one tells the boss what they really think about him or her, only behind their back. But that's because he's the boss. Anyway.
Exactly. So I start my own journey, and I went to college to study matriculation, and then to become. I can tell you, I don't know how much. It's not easy to speak my biography. I want to speak maybe about Israel, but
we will.
But I can tell you one story.
Yeah.
That I get a advertisement that asks for people who works with kids in dormitory education to come for a very special program.
Okay.
And I said, this is exactly what I need. This is exactly because I worked as a counselor in a dormitory for Russian immigrants.
Okay.
So I came to the place, and the guy said, listen, interesting where you're working, but you don't have a degree. And I didn't know when he said degree, I didn't know what he means.
Right.
So I said, what's the problem? I can't do it. A week, 2 weeks, I ask, how long time it takes to make a degree? And he said, listen, this is a very special project for people who has experience, and it's not. And I was destroyed. I walked down this step. I waited maybe an hour, and then I knocked on the door. And I said, listen, I'm going to continue to be a counselor. Maybe because of you, I would do my job a little bit better. Otherwise, I'm going to do it in the wrong way because I don't know. And it touches out the guy and said, listen, because we're going to deal with psychological issues and many philosophers, you have 10 books in 4 months. If you're going to, you will read it and give us some material. I'm going to ask you and you will be oriented. I mean, yeah, that's what it is.
Sure, sure.
We're gonna take you. And I said to my wife, bye-bye. 4 months. I just read. I have even now those books for 25 years ago that I write everything and I try to understand. It's a new language. 4 months, and I get accepted and I finished the best.
No.
Yeah, this is one of my. I have. Of my
Wow, one of your
certification.
diplomas. Oh my
I worked
God.
very hard, but was my entry to the world, and I sat with Arabs, with seculars from kibbutz, you know.
Sure.
So it was like an integration.
Were you
with
the only
Israeli society? I
ultra-Orthodox?
was the only Orthodox.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I make a first degree, and then I continue to my second degree in Hebrew University in public policy. So this was a journey. To close
Okay.
those gaps was not easy for me.
And did you feel more at home in the outside world versus where you came from?
I'm a multicultural.
Yeah.
I feel very comfortable every place. Where I'm going in different, even now because I'm traveling a lot to the United States. I came Shabbatot to different communities. I feel very, natural. I mean, I love everyone. I feel good with the most of the communities I met.
Wow.
Yeah. So
That's
I
amazing,
never
man.
felt strange. I mean, I feel comfortable.
Well, I guess the only reason I ask is the overwhelming majority of people in this country, but let's say in the United States or in the West, don't look like you, right? They don't have anything on their heads. They don't, they're not always wearing a suit. And I suppose maybe it's easy to, maybe I'm projecting, yeah, but it's easy to feel like the other in a room where no one really dresses.
I believe that if you're speaking about different people, different communities, we have to understand everybody comes from different families and different circumstances. No one do it because I can think the majority is not because they choose. It's a part of the tradition of their family, and it's nice. So first of all, if you understand it, who you are, that you can criticize other people.
Mm-hmm.
If you criticize, you give the legitimacy to other people to criticize you,
Sure,
right?
sure,
It's the
sure,
same thing.
Sure.
But yes, I really love people. I love people. And when I meet people, even in the range of the old ranges of Israel society, and I mean Israel, I mean Jews all over the world, I respect people, and I know my borders as an Orthodox. I know what I can do, what I can't do, and what I want to do. But speaking and communicate and respect, this is something very,
Yeah. Yeah.
This is.
So tell me, the reason I reached out to you, as I told you before, is that we're in this point. Let me rephrase this. Yesterday was Yom Kippur, and I was walking with my family, and I live in Tel Aviv, and there's this area, a very public area, about public space called Dizengoff Square. I don't know if you read about this stuff in the news, but the night of Yom Kippur and also the day after, there were confrontations between secular people and I guess religious people. The religious people want to pray in that square. I think one of them wanted to erect a division that would divide between the genders, the men and the women. And there were, as I said, some confrontations, and some of it even got physical. And I saw this with my own two eyes. And, you read about this stuff in the media about this kind of mutual suspicion between secular and religious, the Ultra-Orthodox. And you think, okay, the media tends to dramatize and exaggerate things. And, you can also just see that the public trusts the media less and less. It's not a phenomenon unique to Israel, but it's happening here as well. But then to see it with your own eyes, the consequences of people imbibing this information, diet all the time, you actually see that this stuff is pretty significant. Like it actually can impact the way people think and behave, and lead to actual physical and to violence, essentially, people shoving each other and calling each other names. And I just thought, first of all, wow, that's pretty scary, and second, my God, that's so stupid to get into a fight with someone purely on what you see. Like you don't even know this person.
Yeah.
You just see them trying to pray or getting ready to pray, and you don't know what they believe, whether they actually pose a threat to you and your existence. I was stunned to have actually witnessed it. I said, "Oh my God, this is bad." And so yeah, I have been trying to talk to people in from your community, because I just can't bring myself to accept that that's the case. That for many, many years, secular people and religious people have been living in this country in harmony, I suppose. I mean, you go outside in the street and no one is knifing each other, and people are just busy getting in their cars and going shopping and going to work and doing whatever it is that they have to do, and everyone lives fine. And then all of a sudden, just like that, people are now shouting at each other on the street. So something is really, really wrong. And either it's the narrative that's been so popularized over the last, let's say, year, or that's wrong, right? Or actually the previous reality was true, that we can actually live, that there is no reason for people like you and I to fight. But then I'm very confused, because then I think, oh well, like they keep talking about the Ultra-Orthodox and how they want to take over and how they want to turn this into a theocratic state, and so there must be some truth to that. Like where is the truth? So I don't know where it is, but I want to find out for myself, and so I'm here talking to people like you.
So 95% from the Israeli society, they're keeping Yom Kippur. It's unbelievable.
95%.
95%, yeah.
Keeping it in what way?
In some ways, okay, but some goes in shuls,
Yeah.
and a lot of them are fasting. It's interesting. 95%. It's not my numbers. It's who is.
Okay.
And the media is terrible. That always bring the edges.
Yeah.
You can count how many people came and scream on those people.
Sure.
And there are the same people, bad people, like the same people who live in Mea Shearim. They are brothers, because edges is something that people not using with the brain, just with the, with the emotions, and I think they're gonna stay there forever, and it's a waste of time to give them so much attention.
Yeah.
The people who are in the center are moderate. I mean, they have they will never act like this, and I believe very much in the art of compromise. We can find so much agreements between different communities, different sectors in Israel, and I was involved by myself just the last year with so many groups, and from different people, from Tel Aviv, from Yerushalayim, from the National Science community, and even from some Haredi. I was involved in many activities, because it bothers me. I'm looking for peace, and I know we will never resolve the problem, but we can narrow down the problem.
Yeah. And
this is very important. The media always bring, that, because you come from the Tikshoret, but unfortunately, this is very, very sad to see people are fighting with people in the street. You don't know them.
Yeah.
And everybody's saying, we know that it's mainly because what's happened the last year in Israel. It's about the fight between Jewish and democracy state, and all those fights. I think no one is holding the truth. Everybody has some fears, but with fears you cannot resolve problems.
Sure.
You have to sit down at the table and to understand the needs of each population, each community, and to compromise. Yeah, you have to compromise. If you will not compromise, we will continue fighting. And we know in our history the second and the first temple was destroyed just because of Sinat Chinam. I think it's very close to happen again if we're not going to take responsibility, interfere the system, and find the ways how we can sit with normal, moderate people to find a common language.
Yeah, I agree.
But you know, the fact that you mentioned the story from Yom Kippur, so I know the media win. They won. They win.
Yeah.
Because we are speaking now about 4, 5, 10, 20, 100 people.
Right.
That's the story.
Right.
It's not fair.
Yeah.
The majority is not there. The majority is not there.
I agree. My concern is that, look, I once read a biography of Lenin, Vladimir Lenin, and that guy was a marginal figure for most of his life. Persecuted, whatever, but didn't capture at all the popular feeling. And then some political crisis happened. You know, the Russians were involved in the war. It was a catastrophe, whatever. And he seized the moment. He took power. He destroyed his enemies, and he became a dictator. And the rest is history. You know, these guys that the same with Hitler, by the way. These guys that start off on the fringe, maniacs. You know, Hitler as a you know, he had no friends, he had no women, like just weird, you know, not the kind of people you want to be around. That should really not have been paid any attention, and then yet something happened, and it's all really based on bad incentives because, you know, the media industry is dying everywhere economically, and they are competing for attention because that is what that is their business model, right? They want people to read their stuff. They are competing for attention with other sources of media, which essentially is social media. So they're bleeding money, and they're being outcompeted by cheaper, faster models out there, and so they have to compete on crazier terms and have to up the ante, right? And and to terrify people essentially, right? And it just keeps on happening. You know, it wasn't so long ago that we had COVID, right? Which was, again, this just avalanche, this tornado of scary headlines and scary stories. And some of them were true, but also a lot of it was, I suppose, exaggerated. And, you know, we're all being, again, the evidence that I saw with my own eyes yesterday, we're all being sucked into this vortex of you know, fear porn, essentially, right? It's terrible, but people are believing it and behaving accordingly, and it's sad to see. So how do we, like, on some level, that's part of the problem, like correcting for that popular narrative, because even I, like a guy like me who was walking around the street before I came here, and it all seems so normal. Like, it's, you know, a pizza shop here and a hamburger shop over there and some clothes and people walking. And I listen to some of the conversations that people are having on the phone, and I recognize those conversations. They're talking about business. They're talking about contracts. It's completely normal. It's totally intelligible to me as someone that lives in Tel Aviv. So, you know, where is this, you know, why don't I come here and see you know, men hitting women on the street and telling them to go home and not to work, you know, whatever the apocalypse of theocracy that people see coming when the Ultra-Orthodox you know, are the majority of this country and take over. I don't see it. So something's missing in my mind about.
So I will explain you. I'll tell you something.
Yeah.
When the country was based, it was only 60,000 Haredim in Israel. Very, very small community, minority. And now we are more 1,300,000 people. But we are very different. So we have now 10% who are very open-minded Haredim, modern Haredim.
Yeah.
and there's another 30% who are consider themselves as conservative Haredim with modern touch,
Okay.
and there's another 50% is the no, how do you say the mainstream Haredi? Okay, I mean the majority of silent. I mean
Yeah. The silent majority.
silent majority.
Yeah.
And 10% extreme.
Okay.
So the
So
extreme
break down the.
So breakdown, yeah.
Yeah.
So if you get to the extremes, they're not a part of Israeli society. I mean, they will not be a part of Israel, and they're not growing too much, because they are 10%. now.
Okay.
They're not a threat for Israel.
Okay.
The another 50% is people, they have not their own voice. They are not individuals. They are followers, and they don't have opinions about nothing. Okay?
Okay.
I mean, I'm saying roughly. I mean,
Yeah.
you understand.
Like they don't follow politics.
But if you
they
go
don't-
to the 40%, you can find between the modern and the modern touch, those 40%,
Yeah.
people who love Israel. They consider themselves as Israeli. Some of them send their kids to the army, and there is a lot of percentage of who go to academic world, and yes, they don't know how to compromise between the Orthodox lifestyle and between Israel, but it's a part of the culture. They have access to the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Almost 80% of our community, with some levels, right, with filter levels, but 80% has access to the world.
Okay.
So it's completely a new generation. And between 0 until 20 is 500,000 Haredim. I mean, the majority of Haredim is young kids.
Right.
It's very young generation, and those generation asking questions. And they're going to be much more Israelis than their parents.
Hmm.
And you cannot, one of our practices as a Haredi community, one of our best practice is community.
Yeah.
Community, I mean, if you feel the belonging to someone and you have the help, get help from the community, it's like we are very proud about it
Yeah.
in the community.
Yeah.
And I think more and more asking questions about if the companies really have the tools to continue hold you and support you. If you become now 1,300,000 people, and each 16 years we are doubling ourselves. So that's mean it's a new story. We are not a minority anymore. People feel the sense of responsibility, and what motivates me myself to become a social entrepreneur, because I love Israel, and still I see great benefits to be Haredi. So I try to compromise and find ways and to give those complexity language to the new generation.
Mm.
Just imagine I start for 10 years with 14 boys at school. And now I have 15 schools. It's a network of schools, and all over Israel. We have an online school with 26,000 people.
Wait, how many? What is this? 26?
Online school.
Online. Oh wow.
That online school that everyone in his own time, he can access to English, math, science.
Wow.
And it happens, and at 26,000 people. You
Boy,
can imagine.
you
So
really
when
wanted
I
to
was
become an
young,
educator.
When I was young, I didn't know nothing. But
Yeah.
now, in the age of 13, 14, 15, when you have time, you can close those gaps. So we can see it's absolutely too slow, and it's frustrating mainly for Israel, because you cannot continue. If you think about Israel, as you mentioned before, as a success country, right? And you want it to be sustainable. You have to make sure there are more and more people as a part of the workforce.
Sure.
And it goes very, very slow, I mean, in terms of a society. But absolutely, you can see things happen. It takes time. That's one of the reasons I started working in education, is just because I believe the only way to make people identify with Israel as a citizenship is starting from age 0. because in the age of 20 is
Yeah.
very, very late. This is why I push and motivate. And, you know, and working in education in our community is not easy. It's the place that you're going to pay prices, in high prices, because the education is the system you want to control, that they care about, to continue the narrative. I mean, and once someone comes and changes the system, it's a threat for the community. And I had backlash, I had demonstrations, I had crazy things. But I think we are going very fast. And it's going in a new city.
Yeah. So that, first of all, that's hell of a growth story for you. Like that many people that you're now educating. What do you include in their curriculum? What are they studying?
It's the full matriculation. 5 minutes in mathematics, science, computer science.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, history, citizenship, everything. I mean, it's the official studies.
Wow.
And
Well,
we're not
why
compromising in Torah studies and the same time in secular studies.
And well, why does the community or the country need someone like you? I mean, in this country, schools are public, and so why does the country need someone, a private?
Because the country by themselves, they don't know how to make it, how to convince the community to come to those kinds of schools. The members of Knesset, the Haredi members of Knesset, are against what I'm doing. They're not supportive, right? And because of coalitions, agreements, they even reject us.
Okay.
Okay, it's not easy.
Okay.
And you know, also Israel, you know, there are great things in Israel, but as a entity, I mean, I think they create bureaucracy, and for themselves it's very hard to release themselves from the bureaucracy if they because to make any change in the system, it takes so many years. You need to powerful people and visionaries to make it happen, and you don't have in those places, because also education is a long term. And usually politicians wants to show for their audience that they resolve problems very fast.
Yeah. Right.
And this is a long breath.
So okay. So you mentioned that the younger generation of this booming community is asking questions about how do we. What exactly? Like, what are they rebelling against, or that they don't want to live in poverty anymore? Or they
don't want to live in poverty anymore. They see what's going on around them. They know not everyone can sit and studying Torah all day long. It's a common lie. They grew up in a place. They feel they have the smell of the untruth path. They have dreams. They cannot fulfill their dreams, right? If you want to be a doctor, you just want. Okay, if you want to be a scientist, you can't. So it's a new generation. They're asking. They want to know more, and it takes time. It's to release a community from them, from the cables. They put themselves right out. But it happens. I see, and my vision is until 2030 to have 25 schools that, it's flagship schools. I mean, everybody sees this is great schools. You're still in the community, but you are professionalist. You know how to communicate with people. You have writing skills, reading skills. You know how to be engineer, lawyer. I mean, people will see that it's possible. You don't need to put aside your identity to become a lawyer. And I feel it takes time, but you can see in the new generation that mainly because they have access to the internet. I always have a story that from some years ago in America, there was a huge event against technology. All the rabbis come together. It was 60,000 people came to a huge event.
60,000 people
Yeah.
to protest against the
Yeah,
internet?
technology. Yeah, it was a very in one of the huge
Stadiums?
stadiums. Yeah, in America.
Oh my God.
So how we know about this event? You know,
The internet?
because 60% from the people who attend the event, they recorded with their smartphone. You understand? Okay. This is crazy.
That's
You lose the
beautiful.
battle. You lose your battle. You continue fighting of something that you lose.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's
That
crazy.
Apple is so good that even the Haredim can't resist it.
Yeah,
That's-
exactly. Exactly. So saying, if you say everything not and against, you're against everything, people cannot live the older life in no. The young generation wants to know what yes.
Wow. So I mean, this is okay. So let me try to be because this you painted a very optimistic view, which I love. But let me be pessimistic for a second. So if I look at politicians, politicians don't come out of nowhere, right? They were once young men, then before that they were or young women as well, and before that they were kids, and kids grow up in a family and they have communities, and so they put all sorts of ideas in their heads, right? And then at some point they realize, actually I can lead this community, I can represent this community in this form of government, and I am going to represent their values, right? Perhaps even the most extreme part of their values, but I will represent their values because that's the community I come from. That's the community I'm trying to promote and advance, and I'm going to do it in a place where I can affect change, which is government. And yet, it feels like the ones who either they get the most attention or in fact just reach the highest levels of power don't, as you said, advance things like what you're trying to promote, which is more integration, more modern skill set for this community. So is it just because they're older and they grew up in a different generation, and there's a new generation that will one day supplant these people in government and therefore advance the kinds of things that you like? So are we just seeing sort of the last breath of that generation holding on to power and not really helping things? Is that your take on it? Or is that actually what the community really wants, the ultra-Orthodox community?
That's what I'm saying. The majority, they don't want. No one asks them what you want. Just they
just follow.
They just follow.
Okay.
That's what I was saying in Hebrew. We're saying we are not choosing by the election, we're just voting.
Okay, right.
It's not
So they're
choosing.
told who to vote for.
Yeah,
Right.
sure.
Okay.
If you follow the rabbi's claims, yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and I think this is one of the threats of the democracy community. People who are aspire for democracy, they have fear from those kinds of behaviors
Mm-hmm.
and for customs.
Yeah.
And absolutely they are right.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, it's not going to continue forever. Because again, if you take responsibility, you think different, you cannot think in terms of your sector, of your group. You have to think about all Israel. You have to take much more responsibility. You can see in many steps, in many things, that those kinds, for example, the health ministry is a Haredi, but he speaks now like Israeli politician, not as a Haredi one.
Mm.
He thinks in terms of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
And it's already exists, and is very popular, and I know why, because it's very unique. But if you ask me, now, in 1 month, it's going to be election in the municipality, also in Bet Shemesh. Bet Shemesh is like the microcosmos from Israel. And all the communities, the Haredi, secular tradition, everybody is there. And now is Eliza Bloch, she's the mayor of the city. We have great relationship. And, and people said, what's going to happen in Bet Shemesh? This is what's going to happen in the future. But you will not believe, now there was a Haredi group. They're going to run for election without the Haredim.
What?
And they have a huge, they're going to have their own party.
Okay.
Not Degel Torah, not Agudat Israel, not Shas. I mean, those groups are the hardcore, the official.
Yeah.
Now it's going to be the first time Haredim are running the municipality with no Shas and with no Degel Torah, just because we believe we want to present. We have our own needs, and we want to present ourselves. And they're going to win. I mean, they're going to win they're going to have at least 2 seats. Okay, I know. So.
What do they believe? What are their values?
No, they want education. What I'm doing, the mamlachti education.
Okay.
Many things, but
different from
but
the
they're
old.
not going to follow the tuition system that comes the rabbi and
Wow.
said, yeah.
Wow.
So if this will happen, B'ezrat Hashem, that's mean in few years the same thing will happen in the Knesset. And if it's going to be great people, strong people, and they're going to succeed, that's mean more people are going to vote for them. And that's mean Haredi, but it's no Haredi now.
Wow.
And those Haredim is completely identified with Israel. So you can see, it's very slow, it's frustrating, I'm saying again.
Yeah.
But you can see the hope.
Do you I'm very ignorant about how this works. Do politics, are they dictated by the rabbinical class, so the rabbis?
No, I would say something that maybe it's not politically correct to speak in those terms. I will tell you that usually it's I don't know how you call them in English, but askanim. I mean the people who they are the dealers. I mean, so they convince rabbis. They said the rabbis what to do, and what to do and why you should say that you go with us. This is a kind of it's very politician. It's not the Torah, pure the Torah.
No
I
way.
say it publicly. I absolutely. What do you think? That those rabbis are really righteous persons. They're sitting and studying Torah. They know what's going outside. It comes a guy and said, "Listen, Rabbi, I can you give us our blessing, and we're gonna say for everyone." Yeah, that's sure.
No way.
And people are crazy. People they don't understand what they're doing. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah, it's very sad. I can't say that
And then
this is present 100%, right?
And then those rabbis tell their communities, support this politician.
Absolutely.
Not even knowing what they're telling their community to sign up. Oh my God. Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa. So
You're surprised. For me, it's very sad.
like I said, I don't know anything about it. Whoa.
Yeah, that I'm saying. The new generation, I think they're gonna think different. They're gonna act different, and.
But I always thought that a rabbi would carefully consider whatever initiative is being, and then use their framework of understanding the world to then interpret whatever the hell's going on in front of them. Is that not? That's really not the case. Someone has to lay out.
It depends which story you bring to the rabbi. The rabbi has no Ruach HaKodesh. You know what does mean Ruach HaKodesh? A holy soul that he feels and see everything. They're human being.
Yeah.
They're righteous persons. We have a lot of respect to them. But it comes people are, politicians and they just say for the rabbis, listen, we need to the rabbi need to say A, B, C. We need to encourage the people, the community. Why are you wondering?
That's amazing. No,
I think in the Arab community it's quite the same.
Right. But no, but
you go to the imam and said the imam is sitting and he works. He's serving God.
Wow.
He has no time. Yeah. So that's why I'm saying that it's very politicians. I mean. I feel the new generation absolutely will think different, act different, choose different. Yeah.
So those politicians, the ultra-Orthodox politicians in Israeli government, they're just the same politicians, just with beards and hats. Like they don't actually believe in the things that they're it's all just about keeping their place in power?
I think some values for them is very, very important. They want to do everything to keep those values. They absolutely believe in those values.
Okay.
But for sure, some of the other values, they just pretend themselves that this is what they believe, because otherwise they're going to lose the power. And they would like that the community depends on them. This is a part of the program.
Sure.
How you can explain for so many years the same party with the same they know exactly how many seats they're gonna have in the Knesset. It doesn't work in democracy environment.
Yeah.
It's
always the numbers are always the same.
Crazy.
Yeah.
It's always the same. So I'm saying for sure there are some of us that don't believe that. I will tell you more. I think they know exactly that they are damaging their society because of the flex what they're holding for exactly integrating Israel in the workforce, the Haredi community. It's damaging. They know, but otherwise they can lose their power.
Whoa. Okay. Wow. So, in the optimistic scenario, it's only a matter of time before they fail to represent their communities.
Yeah, and I will tell you, the Lithuanian and the Hasidic community party was very against the mamlechti schools.
That's just the general
but
education.
before the elections now, even it came a voice from the Lithuanian and from the... We are not going to encourage them to open those kinds of schools, but we know there are some communities who needs those kinds of schools. Wow. You understand?
They're reading the polls or something.
Yeah, things change. That's what I'm saying.
Wow.
Yeah, because they understood they're going to lose our community, our people, our parents. We have a lot of power now. We have many schools.
It's so funny, but because look, in my stupid, naive reading of things, like I just think, look, the narrative that people like me are fed is, theocracy, and it's all about what's written in the halakha and all this stuff. But you're actually telling me, no, it's actually just about reading the polls and some big, some hand waving towards what's written in the Torah.
Absolutely, absolutely. I if it's written in the Torah, "V'ahavta l'recha kamocha."
Yeah.
I think we can measure it. How you fulfill the Jewish law. in "V'ahavta l'recha kamocha." How do you love your brothers? This is a measurement you can measure.
Yeah.
So it's not about the Jewish law. It's about politicians' aspirations. Absolutely. People are people all over the places.
Can I ask
all over the world?
Just because it's just something that, for me, makes logical sense, but tell me if you disagree or not. But just the idea of the fear that secular Israelis have about a religious takeover of the state, and this discussion of, is Israel Jewish or is it democratic? To me, the logic doesn't hold up, because even in the more religious spectrum of Judaism, you have, even in that end of the spectrum, you have a whole bunch of different communities and different flavors. Yes, they share so much in common. Certainly more in common with amongst each other than they do with the rest of humanity, although obviously there's a lot to share with other humans too. But when people say a theocratic takeover, or the religious or the ultra-Orthodox are going to take over, it's a very vague fear, because which one? And if, let's say, one part of that world takes over, would the others be happy about that? I suppose the answer would be not, right? They'd have little things to poke at, and then they would magnify those things and start shouting at each other in the street, and how dare you wear black on this day and not blue, or whatever it is, right?
I have to say the Haredi community is not a violent community.
Sure. Well, they do throw stones.
No,
it's
the extremism. The majority.
Yeah, sure.
It's not like the Arab community. They're shooting each day for another person.
Sure.
You're not going to find those kinds. And also, don't forget, our community is very... not too much of them sitting in jail. You should know the very strong values inside and ethics. That's why I think it's very important. You know, I get a Unity Prize from Jerusalem last year. So my friend, Unity Prize. So I asked my friend Micha Goodman to came to speak to the event. So he said, the last immigration to Israel was in 1991 from Russian.
Yeah.
It was very a success immigration. It contributed for Israel in so many areas.
Yeah.
The next immigration is going to come from Bnei Brak. But they're not going to go to the Israeli society, to the melt pot. I mean, they're going to bring with themselves all the essence, the great things. And it's a Israeli interest to get those essence from the Haredi community. But if they're going to come, and they come with their essence, and the secular society will respect them, it's going to be a very special integration.
Sure.
And this is exactly what I anticipate. This is what's going to happen.
Amen.
Yeah. That's exactly. I feel it. It's going to take time. No one is going to shoot, and I think people are much more moderate that you can imagine. And you know, in Israel, every year is something different. You never know what's going to happen in 2 years, in 3 years. We have guaranteed that next 20 years there is no any chance that Haredi is going to take over. There is so many things going to happen until then, and we believe in Mashiach. Maybe it's going to come earlier than sooner. That it's gonna. We are waiting for redemption.
Wow. Well, listen, I have to say I came. I recorded another episode of a podcast before this about a guy who studied Palestinian history, and that kind of left me down. But this is much more fun and much more optimistic. So this was great. I'm really happy we did this, and it was a pleasure to meet you, man.
Oh, thank you. You know, Rabbi Zaks.
The British guy. He died. Yeah.
They said the differentiation between optimism to hope. So optimism is you're just waiting in a passive way, and you're just waiting something good will happen. And hope, you're creating the hope. You're involved. You're proactive.
Mm-hmm. Cool, man. I love the distinction.